Categorical thinking strategy of the human brain. Robert Sapolsky.
And just as all sorts of realms, when one deals with messy, complicated problems that you need to think about in some wildly interacting way, we all have a strategy that we come up with. A strategy to make things easier, which is that we think in categories. We think in categories, we take things that are continua and we break them into categories, and we label those categories. Here we have a diagram of the visual spectrum. Visual spectrum, the colors we can see, starting at violet at one end, red at the other, classic sort of rainbow, this continuum of color where there's no obvious transition where you go from yellow to orange or orange to red. There's no obvious transition, but there's something we do in every single language on earth, which is we impose an artificial boundary. We say, okay, here's a category, here's another category. We break it up from this point to this point. We suddenly change color terms. Everything in here we call one color, everything in here another. And what's most important is from one language to the next, the boundaries are put in different places for these color terms. Why do we put these color terms with boundaries? Turns out it helps our memory. Classic sort of studies, you show somebody a color, and if that color comes from right in the middle of their color category versus right on the boundary between two different colors, people remember the colors better. Instead of remembering the absolute features of something, you simply say, it's A. It's the color orange. How do you know that's the case? Because go and take people from other language groups where their language arbitrarily divides the rainbow at other points with completely different color terms, and they remember different profiles of colors differently than an English speaker might. Take a color, and if the color comes right in the center of somebody's color categorization, it comes right in the middle of the range of what counts as that color, people remember whether they saw that color or not far better than if you show them a color at the boundary. And people will show that as a function of what language they speak. Taking a continua and you break it into pieces because it's easier to deal with the facts. Thinking in categories makes it easier for us to remember stuff. And it makes it easier for us to evaluate stuff. So that's a classic sort of response that we have cognitively to complicated things. But there's a bunch of problems with categorical thinking, which is when you pay too much attention to boundaries, you don't see the big picture. All you see are categories. What you do in this case is you show somebody a pair of colors. And in one case, the two colors come within the color term in their language. In the other case, it comes across the boundary. In terms of the visual spectrum, these two pairs are equally different, but you ask somebody, how similar are these two colors on a scale of 1 to 10? And what you see consistently are two things. If the two colors come within a color category in that language, people tend to underestimate how different they are. And if they come across a boundary, people tend to overestimate how different they are. Categorical boundaries distort our ability to see the similarities or differences between two different facts. If you pay too much attention to the boundaries, you have trouble seeing the big picture, the picture as a whole.
Living to the power of 2. Living more by composing better.